So recently I received a great question about the differences between training as a natural and training when you are enhanced. I think a lot of people got the idea from watching the programming review series that I was saying that if you're enhanced, you should train less than a natural. Now, I actually don't believe that to be the case at all. I think if you're enhanced, you can get away with training less than the natural, but I don't believe that to be optimal. It just tends to be what happens in reality. Now, I want to take a look at what I do believe to be the differences between training natural and training enhanced in this video. But before we get into the meat and potatoes, again, I'm going to take a second to recommend William Llewellyn's book, Anabolics, the 10th edition, if you want information about peptides, as well as all sorts of other anabolic substances. The book contains over 800 medical references, over 1,000 references in total, and it's just going to be a great way for you to not get bro-scienced by the big guy at the gym. If you want the actual facts, pick up a copy of the book. You can get it for $9.99 on Kindle, which is a steal because it's a textbook. The best analogy to training volume and training adaptation that I've ever seen comes from Mark Rippetoe, and it has to do with sun tanning. So what happens if you get a pale, white, pasty person to go out to a tanning bed, say on their very first time, for something absurd like 30 minutes? What's going to happen? Well, they're going to burn, and they're going to burn badly, right? Obvious. Now, what happens to the person who goes 15 minutes every single time? They never go longer than 15 minutes. It's always exactly 15 minutes. Would you expect this person to continue to make progress indefinitely? Of course not. That's going to run out. Eventually, they're going to need to do more if they want to get darker, right? Now, say you have two people. One person is that same person who goes 15 minutes every single time, and they're satisfied with that. Now we have a second person who has worked their way up to being able to handle 30-minute sessions. Here's my question to you. Who do you think is going to be darker? Super obvious question, right? It's the person who does 30 minutes in the vast majority of cases. Now here's where drugs really start to confound this issue. A lot of people correctly state that anabolics and other substances improve your recovery time, but the more important thing they do, in my opinion, is they actually make the training that you do more effective. So for example, bodybuilders often use a compound called melanotan 2, and what this compound does is that you actually allows you to tan better, and some studies suggest that it allows you to get up to 300 to 400% more melatonin production from the exact same amount of exposure time. So again, for the exact same amount of training volume, when you have all sorts of different chemicals in your system, it's not only that you recover better, it's that you actually get a better response to the things that you're already doing. It not only allows you to do more training, it makes your training more effective in the first place. That said, again, it is important to remember that you can recover from more as well. So you get both of these things working synergistically, right? Your training not only works better, but now you can do more of that training. So it really begs the question, why do powerlifters not take advantage of the fact that when you're on substances, performance-enhancing substances, that you can train more often? Drugs basically, in one sense, this is not a completely accurate analogy, but in one sense, they imitate having fantastic genetics. So think of a linear progression. Somebody with great genetics for weightlifting might be able to get up to a 500-pound or a 600-pound squat just from linear progression, whereas another person might not even be able to get up to 315 pounds. And the same thing is going to happen, at the intermediate levels of progression as well. So in your first, say, 2 to 3 years of lifting, you're really only doing novice and intermediate programs. And the people with better genetics are going to be able to do these programs for longer and get more out of them. Well, when you start adding performance-enhancing compounds into the mix, it's really the same sort of a deal. You get an imitation of great genetics, so people can get away with doing programs that normally wouldn't be effective for somebody of their strength level simply because their response to training is that good. And if you get somebody who has great genetics and the drugs and great response to drugs and they slowly increase their doses over time, well, what you can end up with is some elite level powerlifters, even world record holders, who do simple, basic programs and nothing else for a decade. And what this can do is it can lead people to believe that these simple basic programs are what is going to work optimally for everybody, when in reality, if you don't have the same response to training that somebody else has, either because of their genetics or because of what they're taking or both, it's not going to work the same way for you, and eventually you're going to need advanced programming. You're not one of those guys. Now, one of the interesting things is that if we look at other strength sports that have bigger monetary rewards than powerlifting and thus higher levels of competition to get those rewards, we do not see the same trend of the elite athletes who are using different supplements training really infrequently. So for example, let's take a look at two sports in particular, Olympic weightlifting and strongman. Now, one of the most interesting phenomenons about Olympic weightlifting is that pound for pound, they're actually more often than not better squatters than powerlifters. And Olympic lifters do high bar squats all the way down, ass to grass without a belt, and yet still some of these guys are moving more poundage than world record holding powerlifters who are using belts and knee wraps. So what's the deal here? Well, Olympic level weightlifters who are on substances will often squat 10 to 13 times a week, sometimes maxing out on every single session, a la the Bulgarian method. So what we see at this level of Olympic weightlifting is actually people doing more training the more stuff that they take. And I think that is mostly a product, yes, of the sport itself and the nature of the sport, but you can't say that the squat is like the clean and jerk and has, no eccentric or anything. The squat definitely has an eccentric. So I think it's a product of the competitiveness of the sport, and people trend towards what works the best. Just use common sense here. What athlete is going to win? It's like the sun tanning analogy. The one who trains 40 hours a week or the one who trains 4 hours a week? Obviously, there's exceptions due to a variety of factors, but over time, everybody needs to be looking towards maximizing their volume. And again, take a look at strongman, another sport with a high level of monetary rewards. The best strongmen are the best deadlifters on the planet. They destroy powerlifters. There's far more 900-pound deadlifters in the strongman ranks than there are in the powerlifter ranks. And while it's typical for a powerlifter to deadlift once every other week or so, especially the elite enhanced lifters, strongmen might do a deadlift and then do event training once or twice a week on top of that, where they're picking up stones, doing carries, all sorts of stuff, right? So again, it just goes to show you that for the most part, training more is what you're looking to do. You know what? Again, for me, it all comes back to the sun tanning analogy. Who is going to end up darker? The person who can eventually work up to doing 45-minute sessions and not getting burned, or the person who can work up to 15-minute sessions and not get burned? In the long run, way more times than not, the 45-minute guy is going to win. Look, everybody has a different tolerance level for volume. I'm not suggesting that you be that guy who jumps straight into the tanning bed for 60 minutes and burns yourself, through some sort of crazy super volume routine that overtrains you. That's not the point at all. The point is that however much volume that you need to get to a certain level of adaptation, to get to the next level, you're going to have to eventually do more volume, because volume is the stressor, it is the stimulus that drives your progress. So over time, really the limiting factor for how good you can become as an athlete really is how much you can train. It's how much your body can tolerate. There is an upper limit. Even though recovery is trainable and it does get better, there is an upper limit for everybody to the direct amount that you can recover from. So over time, more often than not, the best athletes are the athletes that have either the best response to training, or really more often than not, it's the athletes that can do the most overall training and not break down. That is what really separates the elite guys in super competitive sports where it's not uncommon to train, 5 or 6 hours a day. Very much unlike powerlifting. However, even in powerlifting, I think this is the case. In other words, I don't really believe that there should be any difference between how a natural trainee trains and an enhanced trainee. The real difference is going to come in when you start to, let's say, use auto-regulation, right? So a natural is going to be able to work up to a certain level of volume, and then, however many years down the road, they're probably just not going to be able to recover from more. But on average, if you compared that natural to an enhanced lifter, the enhanced lifter more times than not is going to be able to work up to much higher levels of total volume in the long run, which is one reason why the ultimate potential for an enhanced lifter is much higher than it is for a natural lifter. But the process of how they should go about getting to those points is not really any different. In other words, they need to slowly work up over time just like anybody else, because if you go too fast, you get burned. And if you don't move up at all, well, eventually you stop making progress. So really for both groups, you just slowly increase that volume over time. You go into the tanning bed for a few more minutes and get darker and darker, and that's really the process. So to be 100% succinct, I don't think that there's any real difference between how a natural trainee should train and an enhanced trainee. It's just that the enhanced trainee can not only get away with more, but it's going to work better too. If you guys found this content interesting, informative, or entertaining, then you know what to do. Please like, comment, share, subscribe if you haven't already. Don't forget to check out PowerliftingToWin.com for more great powerlifting information. And most importantly, have a nice day, my friends.